Africa has been the provider. If you look at Europe, Europe cannot survive without Africa. One situation that people don't realize, post-World War, when the US came up with the Marshall Plan, what they don't tell you is that the contribution through exploitation of African minerals was actually the biggest funder of the European Recovery Plan, ERP, aka the Marshall Plan. US contributed $13 billion and they $175 billion, which, by the way, the American taxpayer must be paid back. Nobody's asking for that money back. But what they don't tell you is that Africa, through exploitation of its resources by the Europeans, was actually a much, much bigger contribution to the European recovery post-World War II. Nobody talks about that. Why does such a continent that did so much to help Europe recover continue to be so poor? Let's be realistic here. Let's not talk about peanuts. Africa does not need the aid. What we need is for those who are exploiting Africa to stop. Africa has everything it needs. If Africa could have contributed as much as it did to the recovery of Europe post-World War II, why wasn't Africa equally developed?
So what happens next, Adhikana? You and I have talked about this before, in the exploitation of minerals, of uranium, of cobalt, of nickel, et cetera, and many other rare earths, which is apparently very much on President Trump's mind, because we see the negotiation for rare earths with Ukraine. But you and I have talked about the artificially low prices and the fact that many economies in Africa don't participate in the gains and growth of the exploitation of those resources. What happens now when these aid programs are withdrawing? Does the social contract between, American mining operations or other global mining operations, does it give an opportunity for the power dynamic to shift and change? And what will that look like?
I think this is a wake-up call for the African leaders. To the same extent that President Trump is saying USA first, African leaders must also say Africa first. This is a wake-up call to the African leaders to take inventory of what is really happening in their countries. Do they really need the peanuts that are coming in as aid? What is really going out? If I may use the example of what happened in Niger, when the government decided they were going to take over the mining of their... The French companies that were mining the uranium were paying the government 80 cents a kilo for the uranium, and then turning around and selling the uranium to the rest of the world at 200 euros a kilo. So that one move from the Nigerian government to say we are now going to take ownership of our own uranium, they went from realizing about $1 billion in uranium resources to over 300 billion a year. Do you realize what I'm talking about? No amount of NGO could bring that kind of money. And this is only one mineral. Now imagine the country taking inventory of all their minerals and benefiting from their natural resources like the rest of the countries in the Western world.
Africa depends on exporting natural resources and raw materials to the rest of the world. That includes also minerals, which are exported as raw materials, not no value addition, no purification. Some of it is just loaded as ore as it is and then exported overseas. And also from the extraction of these minerals, companies that are exploiting these resources are also Western countries and foreign countries, Chinese as well included. And as you just heard from Dr. Arikana Chombori there, Africa is losing out. But my question tonight is, think of it, are these resources infinite? Are they unlimited? Are they going to last forever and ever? Remember, in Africa, there are countries which have been producing gold. There are mines that are abandoned all over across Africa, especially in South Africa, in the city of Johannesburg, where some of these mines were gold mines. I'm sure they've been abandoned now because it's no longer feasible or no longer profitable for companies to keep on digging gold there. So we need to ask ourselves, this critical question. These natural resources that we are letting these foreign countries exploit and dig up, are they infinite? Are they unlimited? What happens next with Africa if those natural resources are depleted? We are not industrializing. We are not developing anything that can sustain us beyond that. We are just using by exporting these natural resources and these raw materials and minerals. We are dependent on that exportation, because so that we can at least survive, so that we can at least not die. And imagine, look at the difference. Look at the numbers. 1 billion compared to 300 billion. I mean, that's insane amount of numbers. I think the problem that Africa has, we don't have leadership. We are lacking leadership. We do not have leaders with vision. We do not have leaders. Africa is being led by old leaders. Imagine a young, vibrant continent with people who are getting educated, being led by uneducated leaders, people who don't have a vision. It's insulting, and it's embarrassing. It is really disgusting that we have leaders who are not thinking in the right direction, who do not have a vision, who do not understand what needs to happen for Africa, or they understand but they just don't care. They're not thinking about 100 years, like as the Chinese plan and have visions for their country. They think in years and generations, but we are not thinking about the next generation. What about 2, 3 generations down the road? What are they gonna do if we just let all these foreign countries, companies come in and exploit and take all our mineral resources away? And what happens if these natural resources are depleted? They are even taking them and storing them and keeping them in their reserves for future purposes. But us as Africans, we're not even thinking about the future. Just the same as like what's happening in Congo, or the president is also asking for the Americans to come and help him defend himself, apparently, so that and then in exchange of with minerals, giving them the passage to exploit and take away all your resources, allowing them to come and exploit you, allowing them to come and colonize you, allowing them to come and abuse you. Africa has vast natural resources. We have water, but Africa cannot dig a hole. Africans cannot dig a well in order to access that water. We need aid. We need USAID to come and dig a hole for us to be able to access that water. But we have unlimited amount of water, but we can't purify it. We have a limited amount of natural resources: gold, diamond, uranium, you name it. Africa has everything that it needs in order to develop itself, in order to industrialize. But no, our resources are taken elsewhere to industrialize other countries, other continents, because we are incapable of doing things on our own, because we cannot dig a simple hole. We cannot dig gold that is underneath our surfaces. We cannot extract it. There's no complicated processes that are used to extract those minerals. Nothing. But there is no political will. So that's why we fail to do it, because there's no political will. And us as the youths, as the young people, we cannot keep letting this happen. As Africans, as the young generation of this continent, we have to start doing something and starting to influence the politics, starting to determine our own destinations, because these are the old leaders, this generation of leaders that we have in Africa are not interested in the development of Africa. Look at what have happened in the Sahel region between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso in a very short period of time, because of change of leadership, because there is a young leadership that is thinking about Africa, not focusing about on themselves or enriching themselves. And as Africans, we need to take that spirit. We need to start acting. We need to start doing something. We need to have revolutionary young people who stand up all over across Africa. And we need to start replacing these old leaders. We can start driving this ship in a direction that serves us. And when these multinational companies exploit our resources, they pay close to nothing. We are paid below the market value of the worth of the natural resources that we give to them. But when they go and process those natural resources into finished products, they return back those products as expensive, 10 times more expensive, 100 times more expensive, that Africans themselves cannot afford those products that we need. Hence poverty continues, because we just trying to keep up. We need to export more and more of these natural resources in order to afford the finished product when it comes back to us as Africans. The rest of the profit has gone to the Europeans, all the jobs have gone away out of the continent, because we have sleeping leaders, because we have leaders who are not concerned about Africa. We have leaders who do not have a vision. It's not rocket science. It's simple, like what Niger did. There's nothing complicated there, but it continues over and over, years and years, in all other African countries, because our leaders do not care, simply do not care, because they do not live the reality you and I are living, because they are enjoying the benefits of being in power, and they forget about the reality of the poverty that you and I have to live in. They fly private, and they drive expensive motorcades, they live a luxurious life, uh, and they forget about you and me, what we actually need. The development of the countries that they lead is not on their agenda. It's not a first priority. It's disgusting that they can actually sleep peacefully while East Africa is in the situation that it is in as much as sounds like it is hopeless, but I'm telling you, there is hope. Africa shall arise. But I need one favor from you. Please, please subscribe and share this message so that we can grow a community. It starts with having conversations like this, but we do have plans beyond having conversations on YouTube, so that we can build a revolutionary movement that will change Africa for good.